This is Goss's Garage with Pat Goss, co-host of PBS's Motor Week. He'll take your calls and comments now at 844-885-4677 or email him at radio@goss-garage.com. And now, Pat Goss.
Thank you, everybody, for joining me here in the garage. I'm Pat Goss. Love to talk to you if you have a question or a comment or just want to talk about cars or something with an engine in it. By all means, get on the line. Give me a call, 844-885-4677. That's 844-885-4677. And did you know that it's estimated that 2 out of every 3 traffic fatalities are somehow related to road rage? Well, another sobering estimate is that 37% of road rage incidents involve at least one firearm. And over a 7-year period, there were over 200 murders directly related to road rage. Well, road rage is an ignorant phenomenon that has foolishly ruined thousands of lives. Sadly, most road rage incidents are the results of simple mistakes. Think about it. Have you ever made a mistake while driving? Well, of course you have. We all have. I recently saw a stupid road rage incident where a youngish driver drifted into the lane of an older guy driving an expensive car. It appeared to be an innocent mistake because it looked like the young driver was distracted by texting. No matter what the reason was, the older driver had to hit his brakes, and that's all it took for an apparently sane driver to mutate into full-blown insanity. Finger flipping, horn blowing, tailgating, speeding, weaving in and out of traffic, all the aggressive crap that too often turns an innocent mistake into headline evening news. Unless the older, aggressive driver was not human, he has probably made the same mistake sometime during his driving life, maybe even more than once. Yet there he was, at a stoplight, threatening the other driver and calling him ignorant. Now, whoa. Who's ignorant here? The driver who made an innocent mistake, or the self-entitled jerk who could have easily ruined several lives? I'm thinking it's the jerk. In this case, I thought I was going to see something horrific because the jerk escalated things to a whole new and very scary level when he pulled a gun and aimed it at the younger driver. Fortunately, the younger driver made his escape through an opening in traffic, or who knows what might have happened. Every driver occasionally makes a mistake, but most of those mistakes are not aggressive or aimed at another driver. They're just mistakes. Now, unless you escalate a mistake into something it isn't, you won't even remember it tomorrow. But if you escalate it into disrespect and aggression and then do something stupid that further escalates the situation, you could destroy lives, including your own. If you were looking at a TV sitcom, you would probably laugh your ass off at a funny driving situation. But out on the road, well, you might get mad, and mad often means incredibly stupid. So rather than get mad and stupid, just smile at the stupidity of the situation, like you do when you see the same thing happening on TV, and then let it go. 10 seconds of anger can ruin your life or cost a life. Please drive gently and be tolerant of other drivers. Remember, we all make mistakes behind the wheel. Let them remain mistakes. Yes, aggressive driving. You know, a lot of people don't understand what aggressive driving is. You know, aggressive driving, tailgating is aggressive driving. Failure to use turn signals can be construed as aggressive driving. speeding is aggressive driving. You know, there are a lot of things that constitute aggressive driving. And of course, there are things like blocking people. You know, you don't want somebody to go around you. What difference does it make if they go around you? You know, there are millions upon millions of cars that are ahead of you out there someplace. What difference does it make if one more car goes around you? It makes no difference whatsoever. So why try to block people? Why do these crazy things that, you know, they just don't make any sense at all? You're driving a 1.5 ton or 2-ton weapon, and you're out there doing these crazy things. One of the worst things that you can do is what's called brake checking. For whatever reason, you don't like something that somebody does, so you swoop around them, you pull in front of them, and you slam on the brakes, and then you hit the accelerator and move on. Brake checking, that's what that's called. And it is so dangerous it defies imagination. If your reflexes are a little slow, and so are the reflexes of the person in the car that you're brake checking, well, you could wind up dead in a heartbeat. So, stuff like that. You know, driving is mostly common sense and a whole lot of courtesy. You know, you don't have exclusive rights to a portion of the road or anything like that. And you have to learn to be tolerant in order to be safe on the roads. If you have no tolerance for other people and their mistakes and so on, you could wind up in a real load of trouble out there. So use some common sense. Don't escalate a situation into something. You know, one of the things that people just love to do, one of the worst things in the world that you can do, somebody does something stupid, you get annoyed, and what do? Well, you get up beside them and you flip them the bird. Well, what an ignorant thing to do. Do you know what the person in the other car, what they're packing? Do they have a gun? Do they have an explosive temper that is going to cause them to do something to harm you? You know, they could shoot your ass. That's not at all unheard of. So the big thing is, somebody does something stupid, rather than escalate it, what you want to do is to ignore them. Don't make eye contact with them. Don't mouth something vile to them. Don't flip them the bird. Don't even make eye contact, because that can be incredibly dangerous. So be careful out there. Lots and lots of people get in trouble for aggressive driving, and we're seeing it escalate every year, and it just makes no sense. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back here on Goss's Garage.
Stay tuned. Pat will take your calls next at 844-885-4677. Goss's Garage continues in a moment.
Never drive with a bad attitude. I know that's hard with so many stupid, distracted, aggressive, and just plain rude drivers on the road, but it really is the safe thing to do. I drive a lot, and I used to see reckless, rude, or aggressive drivers maybe once a month. But today, it seems like every other driver is doing something stupid. When it was sporadic, it wasn't so hard to deal with, but now it seems like there's always an idiot 3 feet from my rear bumper or weaving into my lane or cutting me off. Distracted? Probably. Dangerous? Absolutely. But there's nothing to do except drive defensively and not aggravate other drivers. Much as I'd like to, I don't middle finger the offending driver, and definitely don't hit my brakes to scare a tailgater. Initially, these situations may be simple mistakes, but an aggressive response to a mistake can escalate it into a personal confrontation, which can easily turn into road rage. Unfortunately, you have no idea which one of these idiots will try to hurt you with their car, a weapon, or their fists. Also, never make direct eye contact with the offending driver. If you're the offender, be courteous and get out of the way. Whether it's a mistake or intentional aggression, remember, back down, yield, let it go. It takes brains to overcome anger. Use your brain. Be smart. Life changes at a ferocious pace these days, especially when it comes to maintaining our cars. For example, automatic transmissions now need regular fluid flushes. Transmission fluid breaks down with use, and although it may look fine, its additives wear out and it can no longer properly protect bands, clutches, seals, and other hugely expensive parts inside your transmission. Bottom line, more wear and a shorter transmission life. Now you can significantly extend transmission life with a BG transmission flush every 24 to 30,000 miles or 2 years. BG makes the best transmission flush machine I've ever tested. It renews all of the fluid in your transmission, not just a small part of it. The BG transmission flush machine is safe too, because it uses the natural circulation of the transmission. Your transmission will work better and last longer. As with everything BG offers, this is a superior service. For more information, go to bgprod.com or bgfindashop.com.
This is Goss's Garage with Pat Goss. Call the show now at 844-885-4677.
For those of you enjoying Goss's Garage on tunein.com, please note our new showtime every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. Now, we do repeat today's show at 1 p.m. so that all of you who are used to the old time slot and so on and want to maintain that, you can listen to the show at 1. But you can't call in because it's pre-recorded. Speaking of calling in, give me a call, 844-885-4677. All right, a couple weeks ago, we started explaining some of the things with direct injection. Direct fuel injection, DI, or GDI, gasoline direct injection. Now, why some manufacturers call their systems GDI is because gasoline has typically not been directly injected. Diesel has always been direct injection. All right, so to differentiate GDI, gasoline direct injection, what that means is that the fuel is injected directly into the cylinder, into air that is already compressed, is hot, and will give better combustion. But in order to overcome the pressure inside the cylinder, the fuel pressure has to be high. Back in the day, the fuel pressure, 30 to maybe 100 on a few, mostly 30 to 60, that was what it took to inject the fuel, to push the fuel through the injector, and the injector was positioned above the intake valve. Today, so pressurizes it to that high pressure pump works off of one of the engine's camshafts, and it is lubricated with engine oil. So you need to use the proper oil. You need to keep the oil changed, or you could be destroying a pump. All right, now some other things to be careful of. Whenever you're dealing with high pressure, and we see this from time to time where technicians get hurt. In the past, it was typically when they were lubricating cars, because a grease gun that you use to squirt the grease into the fittings underneath the car, they produce something between 6,000 and 10,000 pounds per square inch. So lots and lots of pressure there. And a lot of the grease guns would have rubber hoses on them. The technician would take a hold of the rubber hose, hold it in their hand, and apply it to the grease fitting, and then start applying grease. Well, lots of times grease fittings would be clogged up and so on. This thing is really struggling to get the grease into the fitting, and it's sitting there churning away 10,000 psi, and all of a sudden the hose ruptures. Well, at that kind of pressure, the grease that was in that hose can be injected right straight through your hand. It can get into the bloodstream. It can do serious, serious damage to your skin, to your flesh, and so on. Well, think about it. We often have more than 10,000 psi on these direct injection systems. So you have to be careful when you're working around them, because anything past that high pressure pump is really high pressure. And the fuel, if you get in the wrong spot, you have something disconnected or something like that under the right circumstances, that fuel could be injected right through your skin into your bloodstream. Could literally kill you almost instantly. So you have to be very, very careful when you're dealing with modern cars. Lots of things on a modern car can hurt you. You know, it's not like back in the day where the worst thing that happened was that you got a shock from grabbing a spark plug wire or something like that. Nah, not anymore. Lots of these things can seriously hurt you or kill you, just like the ignition system on a lot of these late model cars. You do not want to get across something where you can be subjected to the spark that goes to the spark plugs, because that literally, in the past, it just used to hurt you a little bit, it startled you, but now it is strong enough on a lot of cars that it can actually kill you. So you have to be careful with these things. All right, now some of the other things that you may run across in direct injection engines. Most of them have pressure and temperature sensors. Now, these are to sense the temperature of the fuel and to sense the pressure that's being produced, and those signals are used by the computer to determine how much fuel is to be injected and all of these different things, so that once the fuel is into the cylinder, we get the best combustion possible. Well, these sensors, they sometimes go bad. And when they do, they affect other readings. Now, I know you folks would like to think that all of these gimmicks out there that read codes and do stuff like that, or the places that give you a free code scan, that's all that's necessary, is read a code, replace a part. Well, that is a load of garbage. You see, I've told you many times before that what you have to do is you have to read the code, then perform the test with the same number as the code. But one of the things that we see on these direct injection engines, you look at the data stream, and that's what you really should be looking at. You forget the codes. You want to look at the data stream to see what numbers are correct and what numbers are out of spec. And one of the things that you may see is that fuel trim. Now, fuel trim is when the computer is adding more fuel. Maybe you've got an air leak someplace or something, and in order to get the air-fuel ratio at the proper 14.7 to 1, the computer has to add more fuel. So this changes the fuel trim. Now it may be short term, which is right now, the last few seconds, or long term, which may be over days, weeks, or months. But if you see a fuel trim number in the data stream that is not correct, don't just automatically think that you have a bad injector pump, because you may have this high pressure injector pump. In some cars there is a code for it. You may have a code, and you may have long-term fuel trim or short-term fuel trim issues in the data stream. So what do you look at? Well, you look at the code and you run the test before you buy a $1,000 to $2,000 injector pump, because by doing that test, if you have one of these sensors that's bad, it will direct you to that at some point during the test, and you find that you have a bad sensor, which is going to be just a fraction of what a new pump would be. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back here on Goss's Garage.
Operators are standing by to take your call for Pat at 844-885-4677. Goss's Garage continues in a moment.
I get lots of air filter questions, and one of the most common deals with why air filters need to be replaced so often. Well, actually, they usually don't, yet many drivers wind up buying a new air filter at every oil change, which is utterly ridiculous. Drivers say techs tell them if they don't buy a new air filter, they'll waste a lot of gas. Maybe that statement comes from ignorance or maybe dishonesty, but either way, you lose. Decades ago, dirty air filters did waste gas, but today, not so much. Cars now use a sensor to measure the air coming through the air filter, and computers to mix exactly the right amount of gas to match that air. So even though a dirty air filter reduces airflow into the engine, it doesn't affect gas mileage because the computer is always precisely matching fuel to the incoming air. In other words, a dirty filter means less air, and less air means less gas, so there's never an imbalance between air and fuel. Certainly when a filter gets really, really dirty, it can cause performance problems, but even then it may not affect gas mileage. So how long do air filters last? Unless you drive in really dusty conditions, air filters usually last 30 to 60,000 miles. Overselling of air filters is an enormous problem, and the best way not to be taken is to learn how to check your own air filter and check it twice a year. I get lots of questions about BG products, many about specific products or services like, is BG44K really that good, or are BG transmission, cooling system, and power steering flushes actually necessary? But most popular of all, do I use BG products in my cars? Well, the answer to all of those questions is yes. A regular schedule of BG flushes and chemicals will deliver the longest possible life from all the lubricated and fuel delivery parts on your vehicles. And do I use BG products? You bet I do. I drive nice cars, and I drive a lot. Plus, my live radio and TV shows mean that my cars have to be absolutely reliable. A no start from dirty fuel injectors or a failed transmission just isn't acceptable in my life. Remember, deposits and dirty fluids ruin expensive parts. For reliability like I demand, visit one of the quality shops that sell BG products and perform BG services. To find a BG professional near you, bgfindashop.com.
Now, back to Goss's Garage with your host, Pat Goss.
All right, this portion of Goss's Garage is brought to you by our good friends at BG Products. And as I tell you every week, yes, I do use BG products in my own cars. Yes, I do sell BG products in both shops. So, nothing funny going on there. I love the products, have used them for many, many years. All right. Another thing about direct injection. Maybe you have a car that takes a bit longer than you would expect for it to start. You have to crank and crank for a few seconds. All right, that might mean a leaky fuel injector, because a leaky fuel injector, you shut the car off, it leaks liquid gasoline into the cylinder. All right, but you know, how does that affect anything? Well, it floods that cylinder. That may upset some of the computer values and so on, and the car is hard to start. All right. Other things that happen if you have a leaky fuel injector, there may not be any problem that you're aware of, but over time, liquid fuel leaking into the engine can do a couple of different things. Number one, it can build a lot of carbon on the top of the piston on the cylinder where the injector is leaking. Because what happens is you got liquid gasoline leaking through a faulty injector, and that liquid gasoline hits the top of a hot piston and it evaporates, leaving behind things that over time form deposits, sometimes some really significant deposits. The other thing is that this liquid fuel that is leaking out of a bad injector, it can get into the crankcase, get into the oil. And that, of course, thins out the oil and means the oil isn't going to give the right amount of protection for the bearings and things inside the engine. So you have to be aware of these things. Now, fact of the matter is that most factory scan tools and most any kind of a professional scan tool, no, I'm not talking about the $29 ones from the parts store, which don't give you much of anything at all other than reading codes, and we all know what codes mean, which is not much of anything. All right. Enhanced scan tools, they usually have the ability to read the resting fuel pressure on a direct injection car, so that you can read the pressure. There is a spec for resting fuel pressure, and you can look at that on the scan tool and see if there's an indication of a leak. If there's an indication of a leak, what's going to happen is that on one of the or more of the cylinders, the fuel pressure is going to drop significantly and usually quickly. So dropping fuel pressure on one or more cylinders typically indicates a leaky injector. So, you know, this is something that should be looked at probably once a year. You would have your technician look at the resting fuel pressure on your car to make sure it's in spec, so you don't wind up with a damaged engine from a leaky fuel injector. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, now because direct injection works through the car's computer, what you're going to see on occasion is that there are going to be program updates, just like for your PC or any other computer, program updates. And what these program updates are is that through repairs and complaints and various issues, as cars are used, and let's face it, you use it, and people use cars very, very differently sometimes than the way cars are tested. So there's no way that they can test for every eventuality. So when it gets out in the field, you drive differently than it's ever been driven before in a test sequence to make sure that everything is working. And guess what? You find something that is outside of what they tested for, and now you have a performance problem. Well, you get several of those, and then the manufacturer sits down and says, oops, we got a problem. So we need to develop an update for the program on these cars, and that update has to address problem XYZ. So it isn't at all unusual to find on direct injection cars that there is an update to the computer that means the computer has to be reflashed. And reflashed, when you hear that in an automotive sense, reflash simply means that we're going to download a new program or an update to the program. We're going to download it to the computer on the car. It's all it amounts to, just like you do on your personal computer. All right. So don't be surprised if you have a direct injection car and you get a notification or you take it in for some kind of a problem and the computer needs to be reflashed, as the auto industry calls it. And of course, if it's under warranty, that'll typically be covered by the warranty, but relatively common. We'll take a break. We'll be right back here on Goss's Garage.
Stay tuned. Pat will take your calls next at 844-885-4677. That's 844-885-GOSS. Goss's Garage continues in a moment.
Space Saver spare tires sure do look silly, but if you use them properly, they will get you home safely. Now, a common problem with them is low air pressure. Spares are buried in the trunk and no one ever seems to check their pressure. Plus, they typically require much higher pressure than your regular tires. Also, Space Saver spares have limits on how far and how fast you can drive on them. Bottom line, always read and follow the caution warnings on their labels and sidewalls. Oh yeah, don't be one of those poor schmucks with a flat tire and a flat spare. Check your spare once a month. While checking the spare, look at the jack handle, and the lug wrench to be sure everything is there and in working order. The best spare tire in the world is useless without the tools to put it on the car. Some cars may even require special lug nuts to mount the spare. If those special lug nuts are missing, you will have no safe way to use your spare. Life changes at a ferocious pace these days, especially when it comes to maintaining our cars. For example, automatic transmissions now need regular fluid flushes. Transmission fluid breaks down with use, and although it may look fine, its additives wear out and it can no longer properly protect bands, clutches, seals, and other hugely expensive parts inside your transmission. Bottom line, more wear and a shorter transmission life. Now you can significantly extend transmission life with a BG transmission flush every 24 to 30,000 miles or 2 years. BG makes the best transmission flush machine I've ever tested. It renews all of the fluid in your transmission, not just a small part of it. The BG transmission flush machine is safe too, because it uses the natural circulation of the transmission. Your transmission will work better and last longer. As with everything BG offers, this is a superior service. For more information, go to bgprod.com or bgfindashop.com.
This is Goss's Garage with Pat Goss. Call the show now at 844-885-4677. That's 844-885-GOSS. And now, Pat Goss.
Folks, please subscribe to Goss's Garage on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, and for more car tips, tricks, and money-saving ideas, visit goss-garage.com. Hey, our call-in number, 844-885-4677. Mark that down. whenever you have a question about your automobile or something comes up, maybe you're in the repair shop and you don't understand what they're saying. You know, one of the bad things about repair shops is they like to talk in acronyms and terms that don't necessarily mean anything to an individual. You got a question about something like that? Call us 24/7, 844-885-4677. Leave us a message. We'll get back to you, put you on the air, whatever you might like. So, you know, it's interesting, and especially this business of fixing cars, why a lot of service writers and technicians want to try to baffle you with their knowledge. You know, I was trained that one of the things that really makes you a pro is being able to talk to your client in such a manner that they can understand you. Not try to baffle them with a bunch of BS. What you're trying to do, or should be trying to do, is to make your client understand the situation, what is going on, why things need to be done, and so on. All right, back to direct injection. Another part of this system is the fuel pump pressure solenoid. Now, fuel pump pressure solenoids are used to control the pressure that the fuel pump produces, the high pressure fuel pump. And they do this in a number of different ways. We won't go into that, but the fact is that these high pressure solenoids pressure solenoids can go bad. And, you know, it can lead to performance problems. It can lead to poor fuel economy, a check engine light, a lot of different things. So remember here again that it is not the code that we're concerned with. It is the test that goes with the code to see what is going wrong. Now, one of the things that constantly amazes me, I drive a Jeep, a Grand Cherokee, and so I sit just a teeny little bit higher than the average car. It's not jacked up or anything like that, but because I'm a little bit higher, I can look into the windows of other cars. And it's shocking to me how many cars are riding down the road with a yellow check engine light, a red ABS light, all these lights lit up on their dash and so on. I guess some people get comfort out of these nice, cool colors. I mean, good Lord, people. Well, direct injection, ignoring that check engine light, could lead to a lot of problems. You know, if you have a check engine light and you have direct injection, you should get it checked right away. That means a physical examination, because you're looking for things that are busted, broken, falling off, whatever. That means a look at the data stream from the computer, see if everything is pretty much within spec. Finally, it means reading codes. Now, once we have the codes read, the final thing that we're going to do is that we're going to run the test that matches the code. So, you know, these things, ignoring these lights and so on, yeah, maybe the engine isn't going to blow up right now, right here. You know, could be that it's some long-term thing that over time damages or kills the engine in your car. So you shouldn't ignore these things. In general, remember that we have 3 different types of lights on the dash of a car. We have yellow lights, like the check engine light, and a yellow light is just like the stop light at the intersection. You know, when the light turns yellow, it means caution. You're supposed to slow down. You're supposed to take it easy going through the intersection. Well, on the car, it means the same thing. It means caution. It means that you need to get something done, but you don't need to do it instantly by pulling off to the side of the road and calling for a tow truck. It simply means that you need to get it to a repair shop as soon as possible and get it checked. Now, at that traffic light, we're also going to have a green light. Green is good. Green means go. Green means everything is okay in that system or whatever it is, whatever it is monitoring. Now, green lights are usually used for things like turn signals and sometimes for high beam indicators and different things like that. But green is okay. Green is go. Green doesn't mean you have to do anything. But then we got the granddaddy of them all. We've got the red light on the dash. Now, I don't know where some of you come up with your notions about driving, but what does a red light mean at the intersection? Does it mean slow down, go through the intersection, stop whenever you feel like it? I don't think so. I think that could get you a ticket. And a ticket might be a good thing compared to what a red light on your dash that you treat like that. That, oh, well, it's a red light. I can go another couple miles, or it's 5 miles to the service center and I'll get it taken care of. That could cost you an engine or a transmission. Could cost you thousands of dollars. A red light on the dash of an automobile means the same thing it does at the intersection. It means stop, not later. It means stop right now. Not later, stop right now. Yet we get people in the shop all the time where red light's on, car's making all kinds of noises, engine is toast. Oh, well, gee, I thought. Yeah, you thought. It's not that difficult, folks. Red means stop right now. We'll take a break. We'll be right back on Goss's Garage.
Stay tuned. Pat will take your calls next at 844-885-4677. That's 844-885-GOSS. Goss's Garage continues in a moment.
You probably don't think about it, but if you double the life of your car, your fixed expenses per mile will drop 50%. But how can you double the life of a car? Well, that's easy. Simply use BG products and flushes for your routine maintenance. I'll bet you know someone whose cars last a lot longer than yours, plus they never seem to have problems. Now you can enjoy those great savings too. Simply enroll in the BG Protection Plan, and BG will guarantee covered parts for as long as you own your car, in writing. With the BG Protection Plan, long after your car is paid off, you'll still have years of warranty left. Think about it. No payments and no worries about major repair bills. That's amazing. It's almost too good to be true because the BG Protection Plan is also absolutely free. My cars are covered by the BG Protection Plan. Yours should be too. For details, bgprod.com or 800-327-8883. Don't fall victim to "it looks good, therefore it must be good." Like when thump bump you're tapped by another car at a traffic light or in a parking lot. You get out and look, and being a good person, yeah, right. You just don't want the hassle of calling the cops and your insurance company. Plus, you don't even see a scratch, so you let it go. That could be a minor to deadly mistake.
What you see is purely cosmetic, but hidden behind the cosmetics are safety systems. Those hidden parts absorb and dissipate energy, and they may have been damaged in that tiny bump. The problem is that unless you have energy absorbers and crumple zones checked, they may not protect you if your car is hit again in the same spot. Most safety parts are one-time use, and that first minor bump may have used up a portion of their effectiveness. Then, in an actual accident, they're only partially effective. For instance, the energy absorber may transmit more of the crash energy into the car and the people in the car. That could mean the difference between no or minor injuries or something worse, especially for young or elderly passengers. Even in bumps that seem like a total non-issue, take a minute to exchange information, then have the safety parts behind the bumper checked. It might save a life.
This is Goss's Garage with Pat Goss. Call the show now at 844-885-4677. That's 844-885-GOSS. And now, Pat Goss.
For those of you enjoying Goss's Garage on TuneIn.com, please note our new showtime every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. All right, and for those of you who still like the old 1 o'clock time slot, no problem. We repeat the show at 1. Can't call in, though. Of course, I think all of you are asleep this morning. 844-885-4677. Now, here we have a question about buying a used car, specifically about buying a rental car. Is a rental car a good idea? Well, it might be. It might not be. It's one of those things that no two cars, no matter how they're serviced or anything, no two cars are exactly alike. And we're going to stop right there for a second, and we're going to give you some pointers on buying used cars. But right now, we are going to go to Western Australia, and we're going to talk to Leslie about whatever he has going on. Leslie, welcome to Goss's Garage. Leslie, are you there?
Yeah.
Yes. What can we do for you this morning?
Oh, yeah. Hi, Pat. I saw your clip about rodents and deterrence. One of the items shown was a brass wool, and it's not clear how brass wool deters rodents. Could you possibly elaborate on that?
All right. Number one, it was not brass, it was bronze, which is used around boats. But how it deters them is they can't get through it. You put it in passageways and so on where they might come into the vehicle, and they can't get through it, but air can move through it easily, and it doesn't rust and deteriorate like steel wool does, because steel wool gets damp and it just disintegrates into a powder. The bronze wool won't do that. It'll stay in the passageway, allow air to move, and does not rust away into a powder.
Okay, thank you, Pat.
Okay, take care. All right, yeah, that's for rodent control sometimes. Bronze wool can really help. And where do you get bronze wool? From the marine supply store, of course. It is used for cleaning teak wood on boats. Why do we use bronze wool instead of steel wool? Steel wool, little fragments of it break off as you're cleaning the teak. They lay on the teak, you get some dew, and then that steel wool, the little fragments, they rust. And now you've got all of these ugly black spots on your gorgeous teak. Bronze wool does not do that because it doesn't rust. All right, we were talking about rental cars. Could they be a good buy? Yes, they might be. Now, keep in mind that rental cars, you don't want to pay a huge price for them. You should get a better price than you do for a traded-in car or something like that. Now, what are you going to get with a rental car? Number one, you're probably going to get a car that has minimal equipment. Rental cars normally don't have a lot of options. So, and in some cases, they're even specially made for rental service. They may have less standard equipment than a car that you would buy off of the lot. If that doesn't bother you, because a lot of people don't mind, they don't want all of this technology and so on. So other things that you're going to give up, they're probably not going to have alloy wheels, they're not going to have trim packages, they're going to have the most basic interior and stuff like that. Now the other thing, of course, is condition. Rental cars typically get the minimal amount of maintenance, which sometimes is quite a bit more than what the average driver gives a car. The big thing is that with a rental car, you're probably going to have access to the service history of the vehicle, so you know what's been done and what hasn't been done. So you want to ask for that. And of course you want to ask for it on any used car, because the history of the used car, the service history, is one of the biggest things that you're really paying for on a used car. No service history, no service, the car's worth a lot less money than it is if it has a good service history, impeccable service, and so on, because impeccable service maintenance is going to make the car last longer, and that means it's going to be worth more money. All right, now, other things about rental cars. So you're probably going to get at least minimal service. And the big thing with a rental car is that people think, oh, well, they've had the dog water driven out of them. Well, that's not usually the case. Most people who rent a car, they're business people, they're travelers, they're whatever, they're not out there trying to destroy somebody else's car. And they're definitely not trying to injure it in some manner so that they wind up having to pay for it. Because who wants to buy a broken rental car because they broke it? Not me, I'll tell you that. Anyway, certainly there are going to be a few idiots, but by and large, rental cars are driven pretty sanely. Now, get that out of the way, one thing that no driver has any control over, and this is where rental cars do take a beating, is when they are parked. Rental cars may have all kinds of little dings and dents and so on. And that is what affects the value. So you need to know what the history of the vehicle is and how many dents and so on did they take out of it before they're going to sell it to you. Because it may be almost a plastic car because there were so many dents that there's plastic body filler from one end of it to the other. Not that that's necessarily going to hurt anything other than its value. And what's going to happen is, if you've got one like that, you should pay less money for it. And the big thing with any used car, before you lay down your money, make sure you take it to a good shop. Have the car checked from bumper to see what kind of condition it's in. And make sure, if you're going to pay up for the car, make sure that you get a written service history on that car, documented, so that if it's a car that was owned by an individual, They should have kept receipts and so on. They should have kept a log that shows when the car was serviced. Just like here, lots of times in my shops. What do? Customers come in, they're getting ready to sell or trade their car. They come in and ask us for a service history. And we keep everything on our computer, we print it out. Here you go, now you can get more money for your car. And it works. So have the used car checked before you lay down your money. Do not do something that can't be reversed until you know what you're buying. And I don't care what the magazines tell you, you are not experienced enough checking out cars to know whether the car is good, bad, or indifferent. Get somebody that knows to do it. Hey, we've done it one more time. Thank you for listening. Thanks to Stevie McMillan, and George Stockton for producing today's show. For everyone here at Goss's Garage, I'm Pat Goss. Until next time, drive gently, be tolerant. See ya.